The year is 1897 AD, the 30th year of the Meiji era. But this is not the usual era that we know of. This era is an alternate timeline in human history and is plagued with the supernatural. Our main character, Tsugaru Shinuchi, is a specialist in handling these abnormalities and makes his living exterminating yokai in theatrical performances. Ayakashi and yokai are found everywhere in this world, posing a menace to society. Due to westernization, a large-scale, organized extermination effort is made in Tokyo, aimed to cleanse the place from these monsters. They call this the Great Purge. The operation is successful, at least at face value. Once safety is guaranteed again, humans have decided to create entertainment out of lesser-known monsters who were lucky to avoid the extermination. One would think this is a ridiculous setup, maybe even a form of superiority over these dangerous creatures. But humans are humans. They can always find ways to make their lives a farce. In a quiet town in Tokyo, people gather to witness an entertainment show. A chakra, or a three-toed demon, is hissing at a man. It has lots of blood on its body and it's raging to claw at its enemy. The man, with blue markings all over his body, simply looks at the monster like it's not worth his attention. The demon attacks, but the man leans backward and gives the chakra a fatal kick. The audience roars with delight as the monster takes its last breath. The man is known as the Oni Slayer. He's contracted by a troupe leader who runs the town theatre that includes nightly entertainment of purging monsters. His only job is to make killing demons entertaining. This has been his routine since he became a part of this troupe. Some members of the troupe are monsters like the Rokurakubi, and they don't like the Oni Slayer. But he's not bothered by it. In fact, he almost doesn't get bothered by anything at all, except for the apparition of a woman in a maid uniform. Lately, he's been seeing visions. Whether it indicates that his life is almost at its end, or he's simply losing his mind, he's not sure. During the day, he walks along the streets of the town. It's one of the poor places in the country, with people making an everyday habit of fighting each other for food. Most of them know the Oni Slayer. Kids follow him as a dare, and as soon as he turns around, they will run on their little feet. Sometimes he'll try to help the villagers purge some demon-looking creatures. Just like now, where he spots a group of people trying to banish a forlorn and feral cat. The Oni Slayer knows it's only an ordinary feline, but for the gullible and ignorant townspeople, any creature that hisses at them are all demons. He lets the cat escape and, with a slight hint of sarcasm, apologizes for failing to finish the monster. Then he sees the vision again. He gets the feeling that he'll know his stalker very soon. Later that night, he feels incredulous at fate's twisted joke. The cat he saved earlier has become a bakaniko, and he must exterminate it to entertain their patrons. After doing his job, he gets paid, then goes to his room to rest. He's aware that his stalker is inside the house. The maid that has been following him peeks first to make sure her prospect is in there. But when she pushes aside the curtains, she is baffled to find the small room empty. She walks to the back door to go outside. She retrieves what looks like a bird cage covered in cloth, and a long, slender object that's also covered in cloth strips. That's when the Oni Slayer decides to greet his stalker. The maid, with her stoic face and straight posture, is far from what the Slayer is expecting, which makes it all the more interesting. He reaches for the bird cage, but before his hand can touch it, the maid slaps his hand hard. She jumps away from him. She sets down the bird cage and gets the long object from her back. It turns out to be a bayonet upon unwrapping. The Oni Slayer gets ready, his bottle of beer ready in his hand. In a quick succession of moves, he gets behind the maid and pours the contents of the bottle into the rifle's muzzle, rendering it useless. But the blade is still a potent weapon. What follows is a fierce battle between the Oni Slayer and the maid. He has to shake his head to clear his slight drunkenness, because it's the first time in a long time that he fought a capable fighter. She throws her bayonet at him, which he evades, but it gives an opening for her to kick him. Then she quickly retrieves her weapon and charges at him. He waits for the right time to step on the weapon before pinning the maid on the ground. The maid suddenly speaks, calling him the Oni Slayer, and apologizing for this rude introduction. In her defense, this altercation only happened because he tried to touch the birdcage. When the maid looks back at him, he is surprised to realize she's not the one speaking. Or is it simply ventriloquism? The voice keeps on talking even though the maid hasn't opened her mouth. The voice says her trip to Tokyo to find him has been worth it. The Slayer isn't going to pay any attention when the voice says he doesn't have much longer to live. It baffles him further when the voice knows exactly what he is. A hybrid. Half Oni and half human. He touches the mark on his face that extends to his whole body. As the voice keeps on talking about his condition, he gets flashes of traumatic memories that have made him into this kind of abomination. His hands and feet were chained to the table as he screamed in pain. An old man looked at him, satisfied with his suffering, clutching a cane in his hand with an initial M carved at the handle. The Slayer returns to the present when the voice offers him a deal. The voice knows that he has a short lifespan because every time he uses his powers at the theatre, the Oni inside him slowly takes over his body. The voice says she can extend his life if only he can grant her her wish. The maid reveals what's inside the cage, just as the voice says she wants to be killed by him. The Slayer is surprised to find that the birdcage contains a talking, severed head of a girl to which the voice belongs. It has a beautiful face with shrewd eyes. The long hair is coiled around her neck. There's no sign of deterioration on the head. In fact, it looks as healthy as any head attached to a living body. At that point, the Slayer knows he's talking to a legit immortal human being. The girl introduces herself as Aya Rindu, and the maid as Shizuku Hasei. The Slayer thinks immortals are wrinkly old men. That's why it's a surprise to see a young, although bodiless one. Aya chides him, saying that she's still a human, although she stopped aging at the age of 14 and lived on for 947 years. Immortals are known to have the capacity for regeneration, so he wonders why she still hasn't got a body. Aya decides to relay her story to the Slayer. 6 months ago, someone beheaded Aya and took her body. She couldn't see the perpetrator's face because of a mask. But she saw the boss, a foreigner, an old man clutching a cane. Shizuku was severely wounded by the incident, but she came through and took care of her mistress. She wasn't dead because there was a flaw in her beheading. If there's one thing that can fatally injure or kill an immortal, it's an Oni, a pure-blooded one. But Aya is still alive despite not being able to regenerate. This implies that the perpetrator is a hybrid Oni as well. When Oni blood is mixed with others, it also dilutes the Oni's powers. The reason Aya wants the Slayer to end her is because his Oni side is becoming more pronounced as days go by. This means that given enough time, he can finish her with his Oni powers. At that point, the show for the night ends. The Slayer invites Aya and Shizuku to take a walk, or else the troop leader will force them to join his crew. He eventually introduces himself properly as Tsugaru Shinuchi. Aya comments that Tsugaru appears to want to end his life, yet it's obvious that he still wants to live. When she elaborates further, she says that he keeps working in the theatre and using his Oni powers. In time, this will consume him completely, ending his life. Her maid, Shizuku, could have easily taken him. It should have been an easy kill, but he fought back, defending himself from harm. His words and his actions seem to be contradicting. So Tsugaru explains his side as he kneels at the lifeless body of the cat he saw earlier. What Aya said is true. If he keeps using his powers, one day he'll go berserk and become a monster himself, necessitating the authority to finish him. That's what he's always wanted ever since he became accursed with demon blood. But since he's working with the theatre, why not make the last moments of his life dramatic? Once he becomes a full-fledged monster, the Ayakashi he kills on stage won't be enough. He'll turn towards the audience, and then he'll let them experience the hell that entertains them. It would be fun to see the terror on their faces, and he wonders how many he can devour before he himself gets terminated. After all, his presence will not matter, because he's a monster himself. But since Aya has offered him to extend his life, his plans have changed. Speaking of the deal, the girl prompts him about when he can end her. To Aya's surprise, Tsugaru refuses to do her bidding. Instead, he changes the terms of the deal. Why not let her extend his life so she can look for the ones who took her body? Tsugaru's instincts tell him that Aya has a plan on how she can reattach her body once she finds it. Through her immortality, surely she must have stored vast knowledge in her severed head. Plus, he thinks that the boss of the perpetrator who took her body must be the same as the one who experimented on him. And it turns out he's right. Aya knows the mastermind is in Europe, and she has an idea of how she can return to her original body. The only reason she wants to end it is because she can't do much with only her head. Her stoic maid will always follow her orders no matter what. Impressed with Tsugaru's reasoning, Aya orders Shizuku to let her out. She accepts the new terms of the deal. She'll extend his life, and he'll go with them to Europe to retrieve her body. As the first payment, Aya tells him that the only way to extend his life is for him to consume a part of her. Not her eyes or brain, but sweat or tears or mucus, or, the more favourable one, her saliva. Tsugaru agrees with this. He gently takes Aya's head, while Shizuku shows a bit of annoyance at this deal. Then he raises Aya's head high up, as if he's toasting a goblet and about to drink the elixir of life. Then, he brings it down to kiss her lips. Now that's taking the phrase, "seal it with a kiss," to a whole new level. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.